So you want to learn German but don't know where to start? Well, a lot of people want to learn lots of vocab, setting themselves a goal maybe of so many words per day. But that's not what we're going to do here. Sure, knowing words is useful, but it's more important, I think, to know how to use them. And once you've learned that new word, you've got to know how to use it in a sentence and where in the sentence it's meant to go. And that's what we're going to learn in this course, the course that starts today, right now, with this video and this textbook, Bausteine 1. So let's get started. Grüß Gott, hallo, ich bin Billy Badger und das ist Bausteine 1. Herzlich willkommen. Well, today we're going to do three main things. After we've learned some basic phrases, questions we can ask and answer, we're going to think a little bit about sentence structure, and then we're going to look at the alphabet so we know how to pronounce all of those German words that we encounter. So let's start off with some basic phrases. We're going to practice asking and answering some of the most common questions, and in the coming weeks we're going to learn the rules and the patterns behind these sentences so we have the independence and confidence to come up with our own sentences. Now, these are the questions that we're going to work on today. Let's go through them, then I'll give you a chance to practice them. Hallo, ich heiße Billy. Wie heißt du? Here, I'm asking you your name. So you'll model your answer on what I said about myself, which was, ich heiße Billy. Let me ask you again. Wie heißt du? You'll answer, ich heiße. And then say your own name. So here we go. Wie heißt du? Okay, very good. Notice a couple of things here. We've got a funny letter there. One that looks a little bit like a B, but it's really more like a double S. It's this thing, the SZ, or a scharfes S. I'll probably just call it that fat S. Our next question is this. Woher kommst du? For your answer, you'll need to know the name of the country, state, or city where you come from, since that's what I'm asking you. So find this out by checking the list in the textbook. So you would answer maybe, ich komme aus Tasmanien. Ich komme aus Deutschland. Ich komme aus den USA. Ich komme aus China. So let's try it. Woher kommst du? Okay, we'll practice this more, but let's get to the next question. Wo wohnst du? Wo wohnst du? My answer would be, ich wohne in Hobart, or ich wohne in Tasmanien, since that's where I live. So long as you know the name of the town, state, or city where you live, this is going to be pretty easy. So let's try it. Wo wohnst du? Okay, good going. You'll notice here in these last couple of questions that whenever there is a W, we have a V sound in German. That'll be something to watch out for while we move on to our next question. Was studierst du? What are you studying? For this, you'll need to know what the name of the subject is that you're studying. There's a list in the textbook, so that'll help. But let's say we're studying German. The language is Deutsch in German, so we'll say, ich studiere Deutsch. Let me ask you, was studierst du? Well, that's a good start. There are lots of exercises and things to practice in your textbook, but let's move on to our next section where we start thinking about the language and just some of the ways that it's different to English. Now, to do this, I'm going to show you some English sentences written as if they were written in German. Here's our first one. Today fly I to Japan. Now, that seems a bit wrong, doesn't it? But it shows us that the Germans think a bit differently when it comes to verbs and where they have to be in a sentence. This is something that we're going to look at a lot in the next few weeks, so keep an eye out for that. Well, our next sentence is then, I have not a computer. He is broken. There are a couple of odd things going on here. Firstly, the way we negate is a bit different. There's no equivalent of the English word don't. But perhaps more interesting is the pronoun for the computer. We're saying he, which seems just a little bit unhinged, but it's because all nouns in German have a gender, and a computer is a he, not an it. Let's look at one more example. I travel with the bus. Now, you might be tempted to say you travel on the bus, but the Germans are more literal. Being on the bus puts you up there on the roof. So we'll just use our preposition with. Our last thing to do today is to look at the alphabet. We need it for acronyms like, is it a VW or a BMW in German? We need it for spelling out our names, or we need it simply for just pronunciation, since the alphabet gives us a lot of clues about how words will be pronounced, because we tend to pronounce every letter when we're speaking German much as it's pronounced in the alphabet. Let's start off with the first letter, A. In Australian English at least, this is the sound in this word, car, or the sound that you have to make if a doctor is checking out your throat, ah. Now the next few all rhyme. We've got B, C, D, E. Notice with the C, it's got that all-important S sound at the beginning, C, much like a water drop on a hot pan. Then we've got F and G, which rhymes with our others that we've already had, B, C, D, E, and G. Now we're back with Ha, which rhymes with our first letter, A. Then there's the tricky E sound, which can be a little bit tricky for English speakers, E. So it's this letter, not this one. Then we've got yacht, which is this letter, but sounds like the English word for one of these. Now we're back with another letter that rhymes with A and Ha, and that is car, which I guess does sound like one of these, in Australian English at least. And then we've arrived at L, which you'll notice is a bit different to the English pronunciation because we don't bring our tongue back down at the end of the word, it's just L. Tongue stays at the top. The next two are much as they are in English, M and N. And then comes O. Might need some practice, O. And then we're back with another that rhymes with, well, a lot of the others, P. This is our letter Q, which if you know your German animals, sounds a bit like one of these, a Q. Now we've come to an important sound, R. This is pronounced much like the stuff we breathe, air. S is easy enough, and T rhymes with all of the others, B, C, D, E, G, P, and some of the others coming up. But first we have U, which is actually just like the vowel sound in Q, isn't it? And then we have these two, the abbreviation of Volkswagen, which is V and V. And then the last three, X, and the weirdest one perhaps of all, Y, and finally Z. The last one is important because it tells us that whenever we see a Z, or maybe a Z if you're an American, we need to include a S sound at the beginning. So our alphabet is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. So it's going to be worth practicing that. It'll help us when we encounter unfamiliar words. And that's all we're going to look at this week, at least in this video. There are lots of opportunities to practice in your textbook Bausteine 1, so head over to chapter 1 and get started. And I will see you next time. Danke fürs Zuschauen, auf Wiedersehen und tschüss.